Right, okay, our special guest today is Amelia Womack. She's been here 3 times before, I think. Oh, wow. I wasn't allowed to play. She's been here a lot. We've had tremendous support from the Green Party. Amelia is the deputy of the Green Party, so without further ado, I'll hand you over to Amelia. Here she is.
Thank you so much for having me back today for what I hope is my 7th and last time to this site. Thanks to your incredible work, that means that we're seeing machinery coming off rather than coming on, and meaning that every time I have come I've said we will win, and I feel like today is that day where that feeling is just like, it feels like it's just on the horizon. All of your hard work has been paying off, and I think you might have heard me say before that I think that change happens a bit like those 2p machines that you have at arcades, which you might have gone to as a child or maybe more recently, but you know the ones, you put the 2p in the top, it crumbles down. The 2p moves the whole machine around, and maybe you win at that point and maybe you don't, but you've been part of a movement that means that somebody will have that big win that is so essential to the movement. And I feel right now with Preston New Road, as well as environmental campaigning, that the 2 pences are all on the edge, and it's just going to take a couple more 2 pences to knock the whole thing over and win. So thank you for every single one of you for all of the 2Ps you've put in the machine, every small action that you've taken, whether that's being here on site, putting your body where your beliefs are, or whether that's being online or lobbying or signing petitions. Every single small thing that you've done has made that change. But the one thing about those machines is that the house always wins. And I think although we can win this environmental agenda, what we must now do is break the machine and break the system. Because we need to stop business as usual politics before business as usual politics ends us. And it's clear that that change needs to happen now. The best time for environmental policy was 30 years ago. The second best time is right now, today. And that machine has to break, because I'm sick of politicians who just look at the low-hanging fruit of what they can change when it comes to the environment. This is going to take a radical overhaul to make sure that we stay within 1.5 degrees of warming, save our ecology, save our planet, save humanity from itself. And that's going to take a radical overhaul of how we see politics works and many of our systems. With the European elections just on the horizon, then I'm really proud that as the Green Party we are standing for a pan-European Green New Deal. Because we need to have a vision of what we want from 2019, not a vision of more road building, not a vision of fossil fuel subsidy, not a vision that means that it's still increasing our carbon emissions in a time that we've been told we urgently need to stop. But we also need to address the inequality that we have in our society by ensuring that there are good jobs, highly skilled jobs for people who can go out and have a future in an industry that will mean that we are helping alleviate people from poverty as well as tackle the climate crisis. That Green New Deal means investment in subsidy and investment in renewables. It means investment in sustainable transport options to make sure that the greenest option is the cheapest and easiest option to take. It means making sure that we have our homes properly insulated, even to doing things like tackling fuel poverty that has been a blight on our system in our communities for far too long without being tackled by politicians or by policy. So we need to be making sure that we address a Green New Deal on a local, national and international level, because it's only by working internationally will we win. It's only by working internationally will we make sure that we can protect this planet. And I think with these European elections, then it's such a vital point to be making sure that we remember what our power is, because we're not, as a Green Party, we're not campaigning to get people elected until the 31st of October. We are campaigning to make sure that we have MEPs elected for the next 5 years. Yeah. Because it's in the European Parliament that we can take those challenges. It's Greens that have already been elected, like Molly Scott-Cato, like Jean Lambert, like Keith Taylor. They've been putting the environment on the agenda time and time again. Whether that's Greens tackling bee-killing pesticides, or working to put out a plastic ban, or even making sure that we should be looking at all of our policy through the lens of our carbon emissions. So for the next 5 years, what our MEPs will be doing when I hope you elect them to the European Parliament, and I will say one thing about Greens, is we win or lose seats by a handful of votes, and so every single vote counts. If you're out there talking to people, make sure you're telling them to vote for the Green Party in these elections, because it's the most powerful vote you can cast. Make sure that you are spreading that word, because I don't want to be sat there on a week Sunday and seeing that we've lost by a handful of votes. This is a knife edge for our future, and we need to be making sure we get every single vote out there to the ballot boxes, to be making that fundamental change, not just for us, but for future, to make sure that we're making a change for future generations as well. And that the opportunities that are created as a result of that will show that strong representation for regions like the Northwest as well as across the country. Now, I said that I hope this is the last time that I'm here. I actually said it will be the last time, because I think you've done such amazing work. But the work you've done has been game-changing, hitting them where it hurts in their share price, making sure that they know that that the environment is protected, that there are earth protectors here who will not give you an inch because we know that they'll take a mile. But beyond that, I hope that this is the last time, because we have now declared a climate emergency in Parliament. And this has been the work of a number of different people, but it was actually Green councillors that declared the first climate emergency in the UK. In Bristol 6 months ago, and they put forward the climate emergency motion. Now, over 50 councils across the whole of the UK have made that declaration. But again, what I said about business as usual politics is it's still our job to hold those people to account, because those politicians will work on watering down those standards. There have been Labour and Lib Dem councillors who have actually, in those in those motions, taken out things like the word emergency, or taken out clear actions or targets, or the fundamental things that need to happen to make change. So whatever happens next, it's still our jobs to hold these people to account to their promises. So thank you for everything that you're doing and everything that you will be doing, because I feel like with the big green wins just last week, with the opportunities of having more green wins next week, that there's change coming. But we haven't saved the planet yet. So thank you for all the work that you are doing, and whatever happens next, I will always be there with you in the campaign to make sure that we stop this climate emergency.
I'm going to ask Councillor Gina Dowding to say a few words to you. Here she is.
Thanks, Nick, and good afternoon, everyone. And I haven't been for a few weeks, and I've missed you so much, and it's so lovely to be here this afternoon, and again, the sun's shining. And I don't know why, but it just seems as though the sun shines on the righteous, certainly at Preston, you know. So, yes, I've missed you. It's great to be here. You hopefully will have heard that the Greens in the local elections less than 2 weeks ago had some huge successes in the Northwest, and that bodes really well for our chances of finally getting some Green representation from the Northwest into Europe. And I feel very honoured to have been selected as the lead candidate for the Northwest, but as you know, the Greens are in this to make change. We want system change. We're not in this because we fancy big fat salaries from Europe. We want to do really good things. And with one Green in the room, the agenda changes. And the discussion starts to change and things shift. And that's what the good news is about the local elections across the Northwest. From Tameside to Knowsley to Carlisle, Penrith, South Lakeland, there are Greens for the first time ever on those councils. And in other areas like the Wirral, Lancaster where I represent, and Trafford, there are more Greens. So we are going from strength to strength, even though we're a small party, because you don't need many Greens in the room. Once you've got Greens there, the things shift and you can start to get climate emergency on the agenda, as Amelia has said. And just to talk a little bit about Lancashire, where I was proposing the climate emergency motion a few months ago, and indeed the Conservatives said, well, we agree we need to change some things, but I think an emergency is a bit of an exaggeration. So I think that just says how far we've still to go with the big parties who really just don't get the green agenda. So they just think that with a few tweaks, things are going to change enough to deal with the problems we're facing. And it's the Greens that have understood for decades that we need system change, and we need to really realign ourselves back to working in harmony with the natural world. And it's nothing less than that. We need to go back to looking at the resources that nature provides as a system that we cherish and we give back to as much as we take from. And you all know that. And that's why I'm always so proud to be here and to be having those sorts of discussions with people who are at the roadside day after day, week after week, and really understand what the issues are, that fracking is bad enough, but actually there's bigger, deeper issues and that we need to be addressing. So just, if I could just say a little bit about the European elections before I go. It's really lovely to have Amelia here in the Northwest to help boost our chances, but in the past the Greens have just been pipped at the post, and that's why our message is that it's really important to tell people that we can get over the line. Hold your nerve, these elections are done on a proportional representation basis, so there is no need to be tactically voting. If you believe that the environment is essential and climate justice is essential for our future, and that climate justice and social justice go hand in hand, then vote Green. If you believe that we are in an emergency, not just a climate emergency, but an ecological and a biodiversity emergency, then vote Green. And if you know that all those things hang together in terms of social justice and dealing with inequality across all our communities in the Northwest, then vote Green. And it's really important that people bear in mind that we were so close last time. We beat the Lib Dems in this region. We were just less than 1 percentage point of getting a seat. And we have such giants in the European Parliament working on behalf of the Green Party. So we will be joining, that one seat from the Northwest will mean we'll be joining MEPs from the UK. And let's bear in mind that the Green Party in the UK is the strongest Remain party, with our 3 MEPs already from the south of the country. But we have a huge international European Green Party who have done, as Amelia said, such fantastic work on tackling the big issues of the day, always pushing the European Union harder, trying to change Europe from within, and that's what we need. So I just want to say thank you for everything you do here fighting the fracking industry. You know that we're going to win this. We're nearly there, we're nearly over the line in terms of fracking here in Lancashire and putting those frackers out of business. And then we can get on to the next thing, because we've got so much energy, we've got commitment. With a cup of coffee, we've all got energy. And fair trade coffee, of course. And look, you're all smiling, you're all so raring to go, I know, but please bear with us for the next 12 days, help us get over the line in these European elections, and then the world's our oyster for really changing things in Europe. Thank you so much.